Well, it's time for my yearly attempt to complete Morrowind, and I want to share my experience with you all because after 20 years, I have finally completed the main quest. Morrowind is probably better known as one of the games before Skyrim, where you can't hit anything, and that is an apt description, but I prefer to describe it as a wizard power-tripping simulator with mods and slave trading. The plot of the game is easy to miss, since most of it is told you through text boxes, and if you have the attention span of a squirrel, this will be very hard for you, but it's worth the effort to read through, since it's pretty thorough. You see, there was this guy named Morrowind, who fought with his friends to form the tribunal against the dwarves at Red Mountain. The dwarves became aware that they don't really exist, and poofed themselves out of existence, so the elves won by default. However, the dwarves left behind some powerful artifacts, and Morrowind tells his friend DAGOTHWAVE to guard them, and the tribunal kills Morrowind with Vivek's penis spear. DAGOTHWAVE eventually is also killed by the tribunal so they can use the artifacts to become gods themselves. However, DAGOTHWAVE becomes a mad god as well because of his connection with the artifacts. Many years pass, and you are the reincarnation of the Morrowind called the Nerevar. You were in jail or some shit, and you are released back into the general population where you can terrorize the populace and eventually get around to doing the Morrowind stuff. You get inducted into the Blades by a crack addict named Caius Casades, a secret Imperial spy, and are tasked with discovering what the fuck is going on with the Morrowind prophecies, Red Mountain, and the weird Sixth House cult. Through a series of events and missions, you discover that you probably are the Morrowind, so you pass some trials and go through the arduous process of being named Hortator by every great house and Morrowind by every Ashlander tribe. Then you meet Vivek, and he gives you some tools to destroy the heart of Lorkhan, which is the item supplying power to DAGOTHWAVE and the false gods of the tribunal. You go to Red Mountain, get through the dungeon, enjoy DAGOTHWAVE's fantastic voice acting that used the entire voice acting budget, kill him and the heart of Lorkhan, ending DAGOTHWAVE's reign of terror and turning the tribunal into mortals again.
Welcome, moon and star, come to me through fire and war. Oh, oh, come Nerevar, come and look upon the heart. Upon the heart. Oh, lay down your weapons. It is not too late for my mercy. Oh, oh, come and look upon the heart. Upon the heart. Oh, oh, oh. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? Shame on you, sweet Nerevar.
The graphics of the unmodded game are definitely dated, but the art style is still very good and creative. There are elves living in dead crab shells, a volcano with ash monsters, weird alien sounds, egg mines, silt striders, and of course, the other wildlife. The random netches scared me at first, but I realized they are pretty chill, kind of like big floating cows with tentacles. And of course, they're also cliff racers. I think I have PTSD from cliff racer harassment and their ungodly attack cries. The sound is expertly used in this game, but there is almost no voice acting except for the beginning of the game and the very end with DAGOTHWAVE. Each area of the game has a unique identity. The towers of the Telvanni require you to levitate. There are horrible dust storms in the Ashlands, and the southern part of Vardenfell seems to have more imperial influences on their buildings and look medieval. You might be asking, Dr. Neckbeard, how is the combat? I hear that the combat makes no sense. Well, let me enlighten you. Combat is a virtual adaptation of dice rolls from tabletop games such as Dungeons & Dragons, where your hit percentage is roughly equal to your weapon skill. If your Ritalin-addled Zoomer brain can't process this system, I have linked a mod below that makes your attacks hit automatically on contact. Magic is overpowered as shit, and is the most fun part of the game in my opinion. Speaking of why it's fun, the game is cruel and hard, and the player is encouraged to break it. Your character becomes a literal god over the course of the game, not only in the lore, but because you become so insanely powerful throughout the game. You collect very powerful weapons, items with cool effects, and you can make your own spells. Imagine playing as a mage, taking a break from your Morrowind quest by having some fun massacring a town, buck naked, high on moon sugar and skooma, armed only with your fists and blasting nuclear-grade destruction magic on the populace below, while the last thing they see before their painful death is a drunk dark elf's floppy dick. There are an ungodly amount of mods that have been refined over the past few decades. The graphic mods are great, and the bug-fixing mods are basically required. I, however, am autistic and cannot enjoy Elder Scrolls games unless NPCs are anatomically correct and can be stripped naked. Thankfully, there are mods for this too. There are mods for almost everything in Morrowind. If you can think of it, it probably exists, and if it doesn't, you can probably make it. The community for this game is still very active. There are tons of lore videos on YouTube if you don't have the attention span to read books in-game. Because after all, if you're playing a video game, you probably don't want to read a book. Since if you want to read a book, you just, read a book. There are also tons of meme videos and my favorite, DAGOTHWAVE.
The moon and star come to me through fire and war. Oh, oh, come Nerevar, come and look upon my heart, look upon my heart. Oh, lay down your weapons, it is not too late for my mercy. Oh, oh, come and look upon my heart, look upon my heart. Oh, 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 I'm a god, how can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? Shame on you, sweet Nerevar.